Hello everybody, my name is Brandon Kern and today we're going to be talking about prompting. So the first question I want to ask is, when do we need prompting? So the first thing is whenever we are working with a client and we ask them to do something, that is when we'll be using a prompt. So what exactly is a prompt? Well, a prompt is the assistance that we give the client in order to be able to help them to reach the right answer. These prompts can be physical, can be verbal, or anything that's going to help them to be able to get to that correct answer. The goal of a prompt is to help our clients in order to be able to reach independence or be able to answer that question or to be able to do that thing we're asking without any help whatsoever. In order for this to be able to happen, our prompts need to have a 0-second time delay. That means whenever we ask the demand, that we immediately give that prompt with no time in between. This helps us to be able to decrease the amount of errors that our clients have. The prompt should also be at the client's level. And so you'll figure this out as we go over later some of the prompt hierarchy and a little bit about that whatever level they're at, we need to be delivering it at that and then slowly working up towards independence. So why is it so important for us to have prompting? As I said earlier, it helps them to be able to get that right answer, but the even more important part is it helps them to not do wrong answers. And so if we're able to, or at least likely that they'll do wrong answers. And so this way we can give them the prompt and help them to get that right answer without pairing an incorrect answer with whatever direction that we're giving them. And so if I ask them, what does the cat say? If I immediately give a prompt of meow, then they will be able to know that that's what a cat says. Now if I wait for them to answer and they say woof woof, instead of me giving that prompt, then they'll start to pair that incorrect answer. And so that's one of the things why that prompting is so important, is because it needs that 0-second time delay, so that way they can have that right answer and we can be working towards independence. And so now we're going to go over our 7 different main types of prompts. And so for that, I want to turn to our PowerPoint. Let's turn over here. So if looking at this here, we can see our different types of hierarchy of prompts. And so starting off at the top, we have a physical prompt. So a physical prompt is any prompt that is like a hand-over-hand assistance, or physically actually grabbing and helping them to be able to get that right answer. An example of this would be simply to just grab their hand and help them point to whatever it is. So if you ask them to point to cat, and you would grab their hand and actually physically point them to the cat. The next one we have is a partial physical. So a partial physical is where we'd only slightly touch to guide them to it. And so an example of this, again, if I said point to cat, I could touch their elbow to kind of guide them towards it. I could slightly touch their hand, but the main important part of this is that they kind of finish it, and so that they're the ones pointing to it in the end. And so you're kind of guiding them to it, but they actually do it themselves. The next in our prompt hierarchy is a model. And so this is where you're actually doing it yourself. And so if I gave the prompt to brush teeth, a model example would be me brushing my teeth right after I say that, so they can see that model or demonstration of me doing it. The next one is a visual prompt. There are a couple different types of these. We could use like a size or a color or a proximity of whatever it is that we are using to prompt them in order to be able to help them get their answer. An example of this, if we go back to find the cat, if I had 2 cards, if I hold the cat card closer to them, that visual cue of it being closer, that spatial relation can help them be able to be more likely to get that answer. Our next one is a verbal prompt. So verbal prompt is giving a full words in order to be able to help with that answer. And so if I said, what does the cat say? If I immediately say meow right after that, that helps them to be able to get that answer. And it's, again, that 0-second time delay. Our next one is an initial verbal. And so this is only giving part of the word to help. So again, if we go back to what does the cat say, if instead of saying meow, since it's an initial verb, I just say me. So I'd say, what does the cat say? Me. And then so that meh part is the initial verbal. And this can vary based upon how much you know to need to give of that initial verbal, but it is a part of the verbal word, not the whole thing. The next one we have is gestural. So gestural is just as it is. It's pointing to help them to get that right answer. And so this can be pointing with your finger, this could be pointing with your elbow, any way that is kind of like, or even like moving your hand towards it can be different gestural in order to be able to help them get that. And so if you look here, we have what's called a prompt hierarchy. If you see, it says from most to least intrusive. So at the top, this is a most intrusive. That just means that they need this is the most assistance that they're going to get. So at the top we have physical. That means they're physical, they're getting the most assistance, whereas at the bottom is gestural, which is the least assistance that they would be getting. And actually at the very, very bottom is independent, because as we talked about earlier, these prompts are actually leading towards independence. And so last thing I want to talk about is how we get from that physical all the way down to that gestural and eventually to that independent. And this would be prompt fading. And so prompt fading is where we are withdrawing that prompt just a little bit to try to make it to that next level or even to independence. And so such as like if I was giving a gestural prompt, instead of pointing right on it, I could actually withdraw my hand and point a little bit higher up. So another example, if I was visually giving the cue, so if as a proximity, I could hold it a little bit back further, not quite as close to them. This would also be help fading the prompt. And then slowly testing to see eventually if they can go up to the next level to see if they're ready for that next one. And if they get it wrong, then we'll go back to the previous step in the hierarchy. And so if we go physical and they've been getting physical right, we can try to fade that a little bit and even maybe go to a partial physical to see if they're ready to go to that level and still get the correct answer. And so as I said, prompting, the most importance of it is that we're really trying to work towards getting them to that independence. And so that is my presentation today. I hope you learned a lot about prompting, and have a good day.